In 1986, a Russian man by the name Dmitry Davidov constructed a game for his high school students based on his psychological background to encourage team building and test intellectual skill. It forced players to use critical thinking techniques to either convince or deceive their comrades. After some trial and error, the game eventually swept through student groups, classrooms, and college campuses until it became a global phenomenon. The craze would go on to inspire knockoffs such as Werewolf and Wink Murder, and become a go-to party game for family, friends, and awkward social gatherings. That original game was Mafia. I've played my fair share of Mafia over the years, both in person and online. Actually, I joined the Zelda Dungeon forums to specifically play Mafia, so I guess you could say I went through a Mafia-obsessed phase. Something about combining puzzle solving and a murder mystery enthralled me as I tried to weed out the scum behind the killings, or kill all of my friends in a glorious bloodbath full of lies and deceit. No one ever suspects the quiet one. In addition, most of the Mafia games I played included a story that the narrator would weave and unravel as the nights passed and the Mafia killed, creating a setting for the players to work their imagination in. Perhaps it's my inner theater kid in me, but those were the sessions I remember the most. However, I eventually grew bored with the murder mystery, especially online since it was near impossible to read people who never say anything. Plus, I moved on to my waifu obsession. Hobby. I meant hobby. It wasn't until recently that I finally tried the internet craze Among Us, the cute space odyssey inspired by the Russian party game. And when I say recently tried, I mean like a couple months ago. I usually don't like playing online games that are astronomically popular, no pun intended, but some friends convinced me to try it out when it came out on Switch. Surprisingly, I had a good time with it, since it follows the basic Mafia formula while also introducing some new elements like the imposters being able to kill whenever, or giving crew members special tasks to complete. Also, in space! Yet, Among Us lacks a bit of what made Mafia so special to me, the lore building. Sure, not every game needs a story, and Among Us fulfills its role as a party game fantastically, but lore behind the imposters and crew would have made the game much more interesting. With a blank face, everybody looks sus. Although maybe that's the point. Meanwhile, Japan is living the Mafia party game craze through the variant game Werewolf, or Jinro. Increasing in popularity thanks to hearsay, apps, and even a TV series, Jinro became a must-play among teens and young adults between 2010 and 2015. Although if I'm wrong about those dates, feel free to correct me. Developers at Petit Depoto were also sucked into the craze, who can blame them, but were disappointed that no Jinro simulation game quite matched their expectations for the genre. Surely a werewolf-style game could work better than what's available, so the team decided to create their own. In 2019, Gnosia was born, blending together a lore-rich world and visual novel aspect with complicated puzzle-solving gameplay, although with one major difference from regular Mafia: it's entirely single-player. Now that the werewolf-inspired simulation game is available on the Switch in the West, it's time to find out if this new approach works for the genre. Is Gnosia a perfect realization of the Mafia formula, or just another imposter? Let's discuss. As mentioned earlier, Gnosia is a single-player take on the Mafia formula. If you're familiar with the party game or Among Us, you'll pick up the gameplay rather quickly. Each day, you gather in the main control room to discuss which of your fellow passengers is secretly the imposter, or in this game, Gnosia, enemy life forms that force humans to disappear from the universe. After much finger-pointing and shooting the breeze, the party votes on who to put in cold sleep in hopes of finding the enemy in hiding. But of course, you'll rarely freeze the actual Gnosia on the first day. During the night, Gnosia run free, choosing one crew member to erase from the universe. The next day begins with the announcement of somebody's disappearance, and the accusations continue. The crew isn't helpless, of course, thanks to some classic Mafia roles that help the crew piece together who is the lying piece of scum: the Examiner, Doctor, and Guardian Angel. During the night phase, the Examiner examines one person on the ship, determining whether they are human or Gnosia. The Doctor does the same thing, except to the people in cold sleep, and the Guardian Angel protects one person from Gnosia attack each night. With these roles, humans take on the Gnosia in an intellectual and lucky battle of life and death. Although there may be more than Gnosia the crew should be wary of on the ship. But I'll let you figure that out on your own. Creepy. But sounds simple enough. It's just one big match of Among Us, right? Yes, but over and 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 over
which direction
and over
we are
and over
going.
and over
There's
and
no
over
knowing where
and
we're
over
rowing
and over
or
and
which
over
way the
and
river's
over
flowing.
and over
Is it
and over
raining?
and
Is
over
it
and
snowing?
over again. I'll avoid going into too much detail for fear of spoilers, but one of the main concepts for the visual novel is repeating the same day in a seemingly endless time loop. Each match is called a loop, with roles randomly selected each time. This means the Gnosia will change as well, making almost every loop unique from the last. Although 90% of the time, Comet will be the first one voted off. It's a system that I enjoyed even 100 loops later, solving the Gnosia mystery, or even being the culprit myself. Granted, the further you progress, the wiser and more devious the AI allies and enemies become. Don't expect to easily find Gnosia each time, or you'll find yourself staring at a red death screen. You will have to strategize when you speak, how often you speak, and who you target. Otherwise, the entire ship might turn on you for either being too pushy or even too quiet. Sometimes you'll find yourself fighting to save your own neck, let alone your own allies. You know what? Niten City is looking pretty sus to me.
I know, like totally sus. I was thinking that too, very sus.
Took you simpletons long enough. Anyone with a brain can see how sus he is. We should freeze him immediately. Let me get this straight. You think I'm Gnosia, despite the fact that I'm the uncontested doctor.
I mean, like, only a super faker would say something like that, right?
Yep, pretty
agreed.
sus. Unbelievable.
Don't worry, Niten City, old buddy. I trust ya.
Shigemichi, you trust everybody. Your words mean nothing.
Oh wow, he's totally sus.
Listen to me. I am the one and only doctor. You all put an innocent talking dolphin to cold sleep yesterday, which I found out thanks to my role as doctor. You want to know who's really suspicious? Yuriko. You want to know why? Could it be that she led the charge to put the dolphin on ice? Could it be that Rakio and Comet, one of them being the real examiner, both confirmed Yuriko is Gnosia during their investigations last night? Or maybe it's the Humanity Sucks button she's wearing right now. Although to be fair, she always wears that. Regardless, any way you slice it, she's looking pretty suspicious. There is no doubt in my mind that Yuriko is Gnosia. No, you. Humanity deserves to die. Exactly. Thankfully, Gnosia's leveling up system allows you to control your growth so that you can either avoid garnering unwanted attention, successfully lead the discussion against someone suspicious, or see through others' lies, among other perks. In addition, you'll discover useful skills as you reach certain thresholds, enticing you to increase specific stats to unlock those skills. It's a balance that you'll have to master over time, but also allows for a bit of customization, molding a playstyle that fits you better. With level ups and new skills in hand, hunting down the Gnosia becomes increasingly doable, although not easy. In some cases, the crew members also progress with you in their abilities, making it harder to catch them in their lies. Well, some of them. You'll have to pay attention to discussions and look for clues pointing towards the liars in order to catch them in the act, although there is a bit of luck involved. Speaking of discussions, aside from tidbits of lore and character background, the daytime matches to determine who the party should freeze eventually becomes repetitive. While who the party decides is sus will always depend on circumstance and RNG, how they accuse will usually be the same set of dialogue. During the first 30 loops or so, it's not too noticeable, but by the time I hit 80 or 90 loops, I started spamming the A button as fast as I could, especially during the first day. I mean, as long as you're aware of who accused who and take note of any lies, you'll be fine. I guess at that point I was more invested in the story rather than the matches. Despite being repetitive, however, The matches are different enough that weeding out the Gnosia is still a fun and challenging task, even if Rakio insults everyone for the 1000th time. The dialogue is also brimming with personality, making for an enjoyable read the first few times. Overall, gameplay-wise, Gnosia is a fresh take on the werewolf mafia style of gameplay with unique puzzle-solving situations that only grow old hours later. However, Gnosia's key feature is its clever use of narrative. One of the main reasons I loved playing Mafia so much in the past was because of the theme or narration that would accompany it. Mafia could transport you to an entirely different world, depending on how well the game creator developed the game's setting and story. Gnosia does just that with its character-driven story and lore-rich world. In fact, while I think the gameplay is great, the tidbits of story that lay hidden in every loop are what drove me to come out alive, making this single-player adventure shine. The game is set in the depths of space, thousands of years into the future. The cast is a collection of oddballs from all across the universe, gathered together for an unknown reason. When you first wake up, the partner character Setsu, similar in concept to Maya from Ace Attorney or Midna from Twilight Princess, explains that evil Gnosia have somehow infiltrated the ship, and in order to save their space voyage, the humans need to hunt them down and put them in cold sleep. Learning the truth behind the Gnosia and the purpose of your space adventure drives the narrative to its climactic ending. The writers effectively weave character backstory and world-building events with the Mafia gameplay so that the story naturally flows as the player progresses. It makes sense why the developers Petit Depoto prefer to call their game a social deduction RPG rather than a visual novel, since the puzzle-solving aspect is vital to their narrative. Finding these special events, although rewarding, isn't always easy, and requires you to complete certain requirements either before the loop starts or mid-match. Sometimes the characters will guide you to these requirements, meaning you'll have to complete a specific action in order to learn more, which, depending on the character, is easier said than done. Just try to keep Comet alive. I dare you. Other times, you'll be in the dark, with little guidance on how to proceed. That said, there were only 2 times during my playthrough where I was completely lost on advancing the story, but after some playing around, I eventually figured out the issue. Honestly, it was more satisfying than frustrating when I finally solved the problems, with one riddle in particular kind of blowing my mind. As you progress through each time loop, you'll meet different members of the crew, each with their own personalities and backstories that build up the lore and setting of the adventure. Nearly every character had something about them or their past that shocked me to varying degrees. It's quite a thrill uncovering these secrets as you repeat each day, learning something new almost every time. Now, usually in these reviews, I'll highlight my favorite cast members or give a brief overview of the cast, but since learning about these characters is so vital to the Gnosia experience, I'll avoid going into detail. Just know that each cast member has a unique story to be told, as well as their own strengths and weaknesses during the matches, whether that be detecting lies, impressing people with their big brain power, or gaining the trust of allies. Understanding these strengths and weaknesses is vital to solving the mystery of each loop, or key to deceiving the unsuspecting. Oh, but I will give you my top 3 waifus. Comet, Stella, and Gina. In that order. No question. Not up for debate. Okay, maybe I'd be willing to slide those 3. But those 3 are the pinnacle of Gnosia waifu. Thank you very much. This review is getting a little long, so I'll try to make this quick. The character design in Gnosia is fantastic. You can quickly tell that these people live in a futuristic sci-fi universe and come from all walks of life. No 2 characters look the same, yet they all look like they belong to the same universe, except for Shigemichi. He's the oddball out. On top of that, some of their design features play a role in their story, giving rhyme and reason for their design. It shows that these designs were well thought out, as it connects to their overall story. As you unlock some story events, you'll see unique art moments for almost every character, placing them in different poses or angles than you would see normally. I probably took a snapshot every time I came across one, just because you never know when you'll see them again. However, I do wish there was more art pieces to find. Seeing new poses or illustrated moments would have added a little more variety, but that's just a small nitpick. The art style itself is unique, having a painting-like quality versus other visual novels. It helps Gnosia stand out from other 2D art games on the Switch. The same can be said for the soundtrack, which almost has an otherworldly vibe to it, especially in between the day and night phase. Once you hear it, you can't really mistake it for anything but Gnosia. The music during the day phase will sometimes change depending on the current mood of the discussion, like if you confidently found the Gnosia, or if the entire crew is about to put you on ice. It's a small detail, but it builds emotion for that moment. Gnosia is an enjoyable take on the werewolf mafia style of game, offering a unique single-player puzzle-solving simulation with story and lore that drives you through each match. You'll experience that brain-racking social pressure drama that you'll find from other mafia favorites like Among Us, but in a well-designed single-player adventure. Few things are as satisfying as unlocking a new story thread after taking down the evil Gnosia. Now, it may not scratch the same itch that a multiplayer party game does. However, Gnosia proves Mafia works in a single-player setting, offering a new and unique experience that will leave you begging for more. Seriously, I hope Petit Tepoto is considering making a sequel, because what they have here is the potential start of a new series. If you're a fan of Mafia and love a good trippy story, I highly recommend giving Gnosia a try. If you enjoy visual novel-type games like Ace Attorney or Danganronpa, then Gnosia is right up your alley. If you're just here for the waifus and husbandos, Gnosia will welcome you with open arms too. Just don't get too comfortable. One minute you'll be chilling with your waifu, and the next she'll stab you in the back. Ooh, is it weird to say I kinda like that? Thank you so much for watching! Have you played Gnosia? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and share this video with your friends, so that we can affect everybody with Gnosia. I'm excited to work on more videos in the future, so please look forward to those.
Goodbye, you good people.